what we have here is a Moss Heirloom Olympus. An antique copper. Now, you've all heard of the Moss Heirloom, you know, Moss's staple GE-vent thing that went through many different OEMs and iterations. Okay. This model HF200. HF100 was the plain version, whereas 200's the ornate. Fan's made by CEC. Uses a nice heavy cast iron motor. It's variable speed. Has your typical tassel pull chain. And look at that detail. It's basically the same as the Heirloom, only with an ornate top plate, bottom plate, switch housing and switch cap, and ornate blade irons. It uses a forward reverse pull chain. First pull is downdraft, then the second pull is updraft, or reverse. The third pull is off. Up here is something a little interesting. Note the motor mount. Okay. Why does it look like it belongs on a stack motor? Good question. Switch housing. Right. Now the motor mount for this thing, okay, looks like it's for a stack motor, but this thing is a spinner motor. So why in the hell does it have a stack motor mount? Simple. CEC, before this point, made stack motors for fans such as the infamous iFan. Okay, and I'm thinking, just theorizing here, but I'm thinking that maybe, just maybe, their regular designs started with the stack motor and then went to spinner. We've never seen anything other than the iFan with the stack motor, but still, the parts, you know, they just, why? You know. So yeah, this one's antique copper. It was available in 3 to 4 finishes. Polished brass, antique brass, and antique copper is shown here, which is probably the least common of the finishes in 52 inch. I think white and brass was also an option, but those are, again, even less common probably, so yeah. Now this fan in particular is childhood to me. When I was 10, I went to a wedding in Florida, stayed at the Embassy Suites in Orlando, at least one of them, and anyway, this place had about 14 of these. It had 4 brass ones up front, had an antique brass one off the side in an office. Now, Embassy Suites generally have an atrium, big open air space with, you know, stacks of rooms along the sides. Alright, so in the front 2 corners were 2 brass ones on long down rods. Alright. Then in the cafeteria area, there were 4 more in antique brass with 3 light, with those half globe 4-inch fitters. Alright, and then there was a raised little portion, little step up, right, which had 3. Had a brass one right in the center, 52 inch. Then it had 2 white and brass 42 inch flanking it. Yes, 42 inch Moss Heirloom Olympuses do exist, or at least did exist. They are extremely rare and I want it. And then also there was another one in an open gazebo, open top gazebo, in the atrium, another white and brass 42 inch. Right? So altogether there were probably 15 of these throughout the hotel, at least. And I'd never seen any of these in the wild until probably 2005, where I saw a stamped one. So anyway, let's put it on to low. Okay. The Moss Heirloom Olympus in general is not overly common. If I had to take a guess as to a date for this one, I'd say 80 or 81, somewhere around that time period. The blades are heavy, solid walnut. They are not plywood. They are solid. Which is interesting to say the least. Now this is the low speed, probably factory trim setting, which isn't too bad actually. It's really not too bad at all. Oh, look at that detail. Let's actually, I was up a little more than low, but whatever. Let's go to a higher speed. Like I said, it uses a heavy cast iron spinner motor, painted brown instead of the usual golden olive color that they used in other fans. So, but it looks better with the copper finish. That much is for sure. It uses a cardboard box solid state control, so it is a bit hummier than usual. I mean, even 3-speed versions of these things were loud. Just hummy. Put it up a little bit more. I do have one of these new in the box, actually. I have a antique brass one with, I think, plain oak blades. Now this one is newer. This one's 3-speed and it's stamped steel. So it probably dates to about 84, maybe 85. Okay, so maybe 86 even. It has a regular moss canopy. Not as fast. Whereas these things, oh, they fly like bats out of hell. Blade pitch is 11 degrees, so these things run more off of speed than they do pitch. Typical cast iron CEC practice. Let's go straight to high. Probably doing about 225 on high, which really isn't too bad. It's moving quite a bit of air. But yeah, the plates are cast zinc, not stamped steel like the regular heirlooms. Another thing that's typical of CECs is the fact that the variable speed control has an offsetting. So now I'm going to reverse the fan by pulling the pull chain again. Now this one I found on Marketplace in some dumb little town in Indiana en route to Fanimation. I'd been sitting on Marketplace for a while. None of the indie locals wanted to go for it. No one else went for it, so I figured I'd take a stab at it, and sure enough, I got it. The bearings, again, they're a little worn. Wouldn't say too rough, just worn. So, sooner or later I'll replace them. It doesn't have a cyclic flux buzz at least, so that's well and good, so they were evenly worn. I mean, So back in the late 70s, early 80s, polished brass and antique brass were the most popular finishes out there. Antique copper was also a hot finish, but it didn't last as long, wasn't as popular. You know, chrome was another hot finish, but that was even less common. This, of course, probably was never available in chrome. Be rather epic if it was, but not getting my hopes up. So, has a nice coast down time, which generally means that the bearings are worn. And once again, the blades are solid hardwood. You know, generally plywood weighs all the same. You know, generally has a, you know, standard weight to it. But solid woods, they vary. Say, walnut's much heavier than the plywoods. Okay? Pecan is much lighter. Oak, of course, is also very heavy when it's solid, so yeah, there are ways of determining whether the blade is plywood or cast if you can't find a seam. If you don't see layers, you know, between the plies, well, yeah. So now we're in reverse, and we are starting it from high. I almost want to say it moves just a little bit faster in reverse, which is kind of typical for older spinner motor fans, because these motors generally were initially geared for industrial use, meaning high speed, low torque, and they weren't always designed to be reversible. Which means one direction would be faster than the other. Or would tend to be faster than the other. That's weird, but it's just how it was. Alright? So, in most cases, downdraft is fastest, and then reverse is a bit slower. Sometimes it's the other way around. This is most notably seen on SMC Lagunas, the 52-inch from the early 80s. Okay? The reversible ones, right? Downdraft is whatever, but updraft is a lot faster. Why that is, I don't know. I don't know why they went that route. But they did. Anyway. Let's turn it off now. Funny, the tag on the motor says the maximum speed is 180 RPMs. No, it's faster than that. But yeah, I would kill for a 42-inch Moss Heirloom Olympus. Because I've only seen them in the wild once and never since. again, that's the thing with, you know, vintage fans, particularly imports, right? You might think you've seen everything, but nope. Eventually down the line, something weird is gonna pop up and you're gonna be like, wait, what? That exists? What the hell is that? You know, so much out there. Like, you never know what you're gonna find. It's interesting that the blades have a nice semi-gloss to them too. Yummy. Tazzle. Yum. Forward reverse pull chain. You know, I really wish it had become more mainstream, but it really only existed when variable speed controls were all the rage, and also, really, and here it's just with outdoor fans. I wish there were two pull chains, one for reverse and one for the speeds. You know, Canada had that as a standard feature for a lot of their fans up until recently, up until the 2000s. Throughout the 80s and 90s, all their fans had reverse pull chains, but no, the US has to be stupid. Shame, really. But there you have it. An antique copper cast iron Moss Heirloom Olympus.